Welcome to the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy Show. It's Pub Sports Radio for Thursday, October 28th. Ian Cameron with you. As we always do each and every Thursday, we break down the pro football card, both sides of the border. We start in the CFL, north of the border, and then we head to the NFL. Let's get right to it. We start in the CFL, 4 games for Week 13. I'm telling you what, the regular season is almost over. There's 4 weeks of regular season football left, and that is it. And then the playoffs will be here for the Grey Cup. We'll start with Calgary taking on Ottawa. We've got the Stampeders right now, 10.5 point road favorites in Ottawa, 42.5 the total in this game. When it comes to the Ottawa Red Blacks, the question every week for me is just very simple. Do I bet against them or do I not bet against them? It's certainly not a look to bet on this football team at any point for the rest of the regular season. This is the worst team in the CFL, not going anywhere. They have been routinely blown out in the majority of their games this year. 2-8 against the spread, by the way, in their last 10 games to go with that 2-9 straight up record. Back-to-back losses to Montreal and Hamilton, both straight up and ATS. They were actually competitive the first game against Montreal, but just too many bad losses. We've seen, look at the majority of these losses, lost by 13, by 12, by 22, by 32, by 17, by 19. They had the one close defeat at Montreal on Thanksgiving, 20-16. Lost that game by 4 points, and then, of course, they play Montreal the week later. They lose by 11, and then my Ticats just absolutely throttle the Red Blacks last week, 32-3, 29-point victory in that game. So, look, Ottawa's just a mess. I mean, their defense is awful. Caleb Evans at quarterback had a couple of good games early on, but it hasn't been as good for him since then. Calgary had been playing much better after their bye week. They did a great job using that bye week to basically recharge their batteries, hit the reset button, get them going. And they won 3 in a row, 2 in a row against Saskatchewan. Then they beat BC, played Saskatchewan again last week, and ended up losing 20-17. A field goal, or sorry, 20-17 was the score. Calgary made it interesting late, tried an onside kick, did not get it. And Saskatchewan's able to get the 20-17 victory there in that game. This, to me, is Calgary or you leave the game alone. I cannot back the Ottawa Red Blacks at any point right now. And for Calgary, every game is significant for them. They're 4-2 in their last 6 games. They're right in the thick of the playoff mix in the West Division. Like we say, always, every single year, a very competitive CFL West Division. Right now, they're 5-6. They're third in the West, which means they're in a playoff spot right now. BC's at 4-6. So it's not like Calgary can just coast the rest of the way. They still want to stay ahead of BC because, you're looking at a situation here where the 4th place team isn't necessarily going to knock out the 3rd place team in the East this year, because 4th place team in the West to cross over and knock out the 3rd place team in the East, that 4th place West team has to have a better record. And BC's 4-6, 4th place team in the West, and Hamilton is the 3rd place team in the East at 5-5 with a better record. So it's not all automatically, just for sure that the West team is going to cross over the 4th place West team and knock out the 3rd place East team for a playoff spot. That's likely not going to happen. So, it's still important for Calgary, especially after a loss last week to Saskatchewan, to keep winning games. Now, I know laying points on the road hasn't been their thing. And I know against Ottawa last year, Ottawa played them, or 2 years ago, I should say. I keep saying last year because I'm so used to it last year, but no CFL season last year. 2 years ago, Ottawa played Calgary very tough. They won one of the games, and in the other game, Calgary won by a single point. But you can't factor in shit that happened 2 years ago. You got to look at the fact that Ottawa's been pretty brutal this year. Calgary's on a mission, and Calgary, went to BC and won by 29. So, and they beat Edmonton on the road earlier this year by 16. So we have seen at least a couple pieces of evidence that Calgary can win. the total in this one currently at around, it looks like the total right now in this game is 43 and a half across the board between Hamilton and Edmonton. I think you can lay the points with Hamilton here. Now, the Ticats haven't been on the road for a long time. You look at the way their schedule has been this year. They started the year with a very road-heavy schedule. And as a result, here in the months of September and October, Hamilton's been mostly playing home games. They've only gone on the road once, since the early part of September, since the beginning of September. They've played 2 road games, and they were both, in their own division at Toronto and at Ottawa. They've played 5 home games, only 2 road games here in the last 2 months. So they haven't done a lot of travel out west in a very long time. And we remember early in the year, they lost at Saskatchewan. They lost at Winnipeg to begin the year. So the Ticats didn't exactly play well when they went on the road. Maybe you're concerned about that. I think that's probably the only thing you're concerned about, to be honest with you, in this game, because I'm looking at this as a situation for the Ticats where this is an Edmonton team that is just, I think, just already looking toward the future. And I think that was them waving the white flag, trading Trevor Harris just a couple of weeks ago. Now, they, in a weird move by the Argos in particular, who traded Nick Arbuckle, by the way, to the Edmonton Elks. I don't understand it from a Toronto perspective. Obviously, this means they're fine with McLeod Bethel Thompson for the rest of the season as their quarterback, but I thought you got Nick Arbuckle to be the future. I don't care how good or you think McLeod Bethel Thompson's playing. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's playing all that great. He's playing all right. He's not playing great for you. He's not the future of your organization at quarterback, McLeod Bethel Thompson. So how on earth do you trade a young up-and-comer potentially? Like, we don't know yet how good. We don't know how good yet Nick Arbuckle is going to be, but how do you trade that kind of asset and that kind of commodity here if you're Toronto? I'm mystified by that, what they were doing there. But nevertheless, he's here now with the Edmonton Elks. He's not going to play in this game. He just got traded yesterday or Tuesday. It was just the last 24 to 48 hours. You're not going to expect him to just roll in here and all of a sudden learn the playbook in a couple of days. So I'd assume Taylor Cornelius is going to get yet another start here for the Edmonton Elks at quarterback in this game. And I'm sorry, he doesn't do a thing for me in terms of being a legit starting quarterback here in this league. Not a thing. He's not someone I trust. He's not someone I think that's played really all that good. You look at these last few games, they lose to Ottawa by 10. They get blown out at Winnipeg 30-3, lose by 10 in the rematch against Winnipeg. They get blown out by Calgary 32-16 during this 5-game losing streak. They've only covered once during that span, and the closest margin of defeat for Edmonton in the last 5 games was 10-point losses to both Ottawa and Winnipeg. Like, they haven't even been competitive. They haven't even been in a spot the last 5 games where, they've been right in the game at the end and they've had a chance to win. That hasn't been the case at all with this Edmonton team. And for Hamilton, you can't fuck around here. You lost 2 games at home that you probably could have won and should have won against Toronto and Montreal. You did what you had to do. You beat up a horrible Ottawa team last week. You got to go on the road and beat teams like this, teams that stink, teams that are, already packing it in for the year. And that's what Edmonton's doing right now, 2-7 on the year. This is a game you got to win. Take care of business. I am worried about Braylon Addison not playing. It's a big blow to the receiving core for the Ticats. Chris Van Zyl is, their best offensive lineman. He may not go in this game. Ted Laurent's on the injured list. Frankie Williams may miss another game. The O-line's a little bit banged up. Okafor, Darius Sirocco. I mean, there's some injury issues here for Hamilton, but Jeremiah Masoli, at least last week, had a better game. It was against a bad Ottawa team. We'll see if he can carry it over here against Edmonton. It's not like Edmonton's defense has been any good. 32, 37, 34, 30, 26. So there you go. They've allowed no fewer than 26 points now in 5 straight games. So I like Hamilton here, -5. All I know is we're getting a team that's got to keep winning games. They're 3rd in the East. They don't want to put themselves in a very tenuous position when it comes to the playoffs. So I like Hamilton here, -5. Add to the Edmonton misery. And to be honest with you, we've seen Edmonton here, 11-point dog, 9.5-point dog, 7-point dog. Now they're only a 5-point dog. I think this is a manageable game, and it doesn't hurt either that Hamilton, last 7 meetings in Edmonton, 7-0 against the spread. They've actually played very well here. They've won 3 in a row here in Edmonton against the Elks, and they've covered 7 straight here in Edmonton against the Elks. And I think that continues here. I like Hamilton here, -5 against Edmonton. All right, let's turn to Saturday's CFL games. BC, Toronto. We've got Toronto 3-point home favorites in this game, 47 the total across the board here. BC is definitely a team that I'm worried about. It's been a very, very rough stretch for this Lions team, falling out of the playoff picture. If the playoffs started today, they wouldn't be in it. They're 4th in the West. They wouldn't have a record good enough to knock out the third-place team in the East, which is Hamilton, 5-5. So BC's out of a playoff spot right now. So obviously this is a huge game for them, but they are in a rough, downturn and slide at the moment. 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. Other than a 7-point loss to Saskatchewan, which was a tough one. They looked at that game because they were really playing some good football going into that game. They looked at it as, wow, litmus test of sorts. How do we fare against this Saskatchewan team? And it was a back-and-forth game. It was a close game, but they ended up losing 31-24 at home. It's almost like that really, real tough, painful loss kind of derailed them because since then they've been just absolutely dreadful, especially on offense. The O-line struggling. They've been key injuries at wide receiver, Dominic Rhymes, Katoy, Lamar Durant. Other than Brian Burnham, they've had a lot of key injuries at receiver. The running back position's been banged up as well the last couple weeks for BC. The O-line has had constant, flux all season long, and they've missed badly. Riker Matthews, one of the I think better offensive linemen in the league the last couple of years, and he just hasn't been able to stay on the field for BC. So they've just had a ton of issues. They've lost 4 straight, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. They go to Toronto to face an Argos team that's played their best football at home. 4-0 straight up, 3-0-1 against the spread at home. They're coming off a disappointing loss in their last game against Montreal. Didn't play well, snapped a 3-game win streak for the Argos, losing that game at Montreal 37-16. When you start to look at this Toronto team this year, what they've done off a loss, they've been good. They lost at Winnipeg 20-7, bounced back, beat Winnipeg the next week at home. They lost at Hamilton, and they bounced back to beat Hamilton the next week at home. They lost at Saskatchewan. They bounced back the next week at home, beat Montreal 30-27. This team has not lost 2 in a row all season long, and that's why they're in the position they're in at 6-4. Right there in the near with Montreal, tied for first in the CFL East Division. And they're there because they've done a good job of avoiding losing streaks, bouncing back after a loss, bouncing back after a tough performance. So, you look at this game, and at -3, it looks a little bit cheap on the Argos here to lay 3. I hope they lose. As a Ticat fan, I want to catch these bastards and pass them in this in the standings. But I think it's a short number for them at home. They've played well at home. McLeod Bethel Thompson has played better at home as well. You look at the offense, on the road, they've had their struggles, but at home, they put up a 35 spot against Ottawa, 30 against Montreal. They struggled a bit against Hamilton, but I think it was Arbuckle starting in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And then Bethel Thompson. No, it was Arbuckle, the first home game, too, against Winnipeg. But the bottom line is Bethel Thompson's played better football at home. And by the way, Toronto's on a little bit of an over streak here, 5 in a row. BC's defense, I don't know what's happened to it, but they've given up 31, 30, 39, and 45 points in their last 4 games. I like the over as well in this game. I mean, Toronto's been trending to the over 5 in a row. You're talking about 46.5 being the total in this game. It's a manageable total. Early weather check, I believe, for Saturday. And the one issue I think is it might rain on Saturday. But more importantly, what's the wind conditions like? Because like I always say, wind impacts the scoring more than the rain does. It looks like for Toronto on Saturday here, we're looking at, I think it was pretty sure we were going to see rain. Yeah, we're looking at wind gusts too. Oh, maybe pump the brakes on the over. 27 kilometers per hour, 41 kilometers per hour wind gusts Saturday, 80% chance of rain. Oh, jeez. So the rain doesn't bother me when it comes to betting the over, but the wind sure as hell does. So maybe pump the brakes on that. maybe just go with the Toronto side here, -3. Lean to the over. Let's see if maybe the weather forecast will change a little bit between now and kickoff. It's still a couple days away. But that wind conditions that they're calling for Toronto on Saturday make me a little bit hesitant now with that over. All right, Saskatchewan, Montreal. We've got pretty much a pick 'em here with the Riders and the Alouettes, 46.5 the total in this game. Saskatchewan, a nice win for them at Calgary last week as they get the job done in that game. We'll see if they can carry that performance over with them here from Calgary to Montreal. Back-to-back road games here for the Riders. Montreal, 4 straight wins for the Alouettes. A comeback win against Hamilton, 2 straight against Ottawa, which isn't saying much, but still, it's 2 wins in a row. And then, of course, Toronto last week, 37-16, a smothering defensive effort in that game from the Montreal Alouettes. Really, they did not let the Argo offense get much going, made life difficult for McLeod Bethel Thompson. And let's give Matthew Schultz a lot of credit here at quarterback for Montreal. He's come in for an injured Vernon Adams the last few weeks, and he's played well. And he's played so well that they acquired Trevor Harris from Edmonton. And my guess is they're not going to start him in this game on Saturday because they've been winning with Matthew Schultz, at quarterback these last few games with Vernon Adams injured. So I think it's a situation here for Montreal where I think they're just going to ride the hot hand. He's played well. He's deserving of the opportunity to keep starting at this particular time. So, I think he's going to end up being the quarterback here for the Montreal in this game. So it looks like we're looking at a situation here where I think it's going to be Matthew Schultz again at quarterback for Montreal. Even though they traded for Harris, I don't think they're going to make a change considering they're winning. Now, maybe if they lose this game, Montreal, then you'll see them make a quarterback change next week. But I just don't think that's going to happen here. On the flip side, Cody Fajardo and the Riders, struggling a little bit. They had lost 2 in a row to Calgary. They finally slay the dragon, if you will, and beat Calgary 20-17. 3 straight unders right now for this Saskatchewan team. And you look at Montreal's defense lately, 20 points or fewer allowed to the opponent in 4 straight games, 3 of those games going under the total. This defense has definitely improved. I mean, you look at their overall numbers, they're giving up 7.1 yards per play. That goes down to 6.4 in their last 3 games. So there is no question they have played some better defense here as of late. Maybe a lean to the under here because Montreal, this game being in Montreal, I believe they're going to be plagued by some of the same weather conditions that Toronto is on Saturday. Rain, wind in the forecast. I'm pretty sure we're looking at similar weather situations for Montreal as well. So I think it's going to be maybe run the football. And both of these teams don't mind running the football. William Standback, of course, for the Montreal Alouettes. William Powell for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Yeah, we're looking at rain, 90%. It doesn't look like the wind is going to be quite as bad as it'll be in Toronto, but 90% chance of rain. Still gusty, 30 kilometers, 25 millimeters of rain. So this could be a sloppy affair, could be a lower scoring game, especially with, again, Montreal's defense has played a lot better lately. And we've seen Saskatchewan trend under the total, lower scoring games, 3 in a row to the under for them. Let me see the head-to-heads. Yeah, under is 7-2 in the last 9 games overall for the Rough Riders. 18-4 to the under the last 22 meetings between these teams in Montreal. 6-2 to the under the last 8 meetings overall. So definitely the trends and the matchups both point toward the under here. So we'll lean under the total here. Don't have a strong opinion on the side here on this game, but we'll lean to the under with Saskatchewan and Montreal. All right, let's turn our attention to NFL for the last half of this show. 30 minutes or so left. All NFL the rest of the way. Week 8. Start with Thursday Night Football. Green Bay, Arizona. Arizona 6.5-point home favorites. 50.5 the total in this game. Thank goodness I didn't even know that shit was going to hit the fan essentially with this COVID situation for the Green Bay Packers and it, just dismantling the team as much as it would be going into this game. When I bet Arizona at -3.5 earlier this week, I said, I made up my mind. I like Arizona. I've backed Arizona in every big game they've played this year. And I'm going to back them again. So I said early in the week, Monday, -3.5 was out there with Arizona. I said, I don't know if that's going to move a lot. I said, let's lock it in now. I had no clue that things were going to unfold the way they did. And sure enough, less than 24 hours later, there's Devontae Adams testing positive for COVID-19, likely out for this game. Alan Lazard, key receiver, out for this game. And a little bit of a COVID situation here for the Green Bay Packers, and one that's going to leave this offense in particular very much shorthanded for this game. The good news is it looks like Valdez-Scantling is going to be able to go for Green Bay. Thank goodness for that, because definitely they'll be talking about them being shorthanded at receiver tonight for this game. So at least they'll have him on the field for it. But unfortunate, because it's taken a lot of you would have liked to have seen best on best here. You would have liked to have seen Green Bay fully healthy with Adams, with Lazard, with that full complement of receivers. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. For Arizona, obviously, we're looking at them with a situation here where, again, they've got some injuries too. And again, Kyler Murray was banged up a little bit last week. Isaiah Simmons, shoulder injury, although he's upgraded to probable, which is good to see. Tanner Vallejo at linebacker is going to play. J.J. Watt will not, though. The big news yesterday, out for the probably the rest of the season, most of the season, if not the entire rest of the season, undergoing surgery to repair an injured shoulder. So he's going to be out now for pretty much the remainder of the season. So it's definitely a big blow to them. This is tricky for me because, look, I feel good about Arizona -3.5. We've seen them step up in class very well all season long. Every big game, statement game, good team. That's when we've seen Arizona play their best football, when they went on the road in week 1 and crushed Tennessee, which that win looks even better with what we've seen out of the Titans the last couple weeks, with what Arizona did against the LA Rams in LA, not just beating the Rams, beating them down. I mean, that was a complete, thorough domination by Arizona. Going to Cleveland and really taking apart the Cleveland Browns. Now, with an asterisk because Cleveland was injured, but still. And then you look at Green Bay. They've played Washington. They've played Chicago. They've played Detroit. They've played Pittsburgh, who's got a banged up, struggling offense, mediocre offense most of the year. And all of a sudden, you've got a Green Bay team that the combined record of all their opponents this year is 15-25. All the teams that Green Bay have played are a combined 15-25. So this has been them feasting on the weak in my mind. I don't think they've played anyone as close to as good as the Arizona Cardinals this season. So we're about to see what Green Bay's made of. And unfortunately for them, making matters worse is the fact that they're shorthanded on the offensive side of the football and really on defense too. Not that he's a guy that Packer fans love because he struggled at times, but Kevin King, questionable. Bakhtiari again. What else is new with him? He just cannot seem to get back on the field, and they miss him a lot on the offensive line. So, to me, when I look at this game and, Green Bay with the passing, Randall Cobb's going to have to step up. I mean, if you're looking at props, you got to look at Randall Cobb. You got to look at Valdez-Scantling. Those are the guys, if you're going to look toward Green Bay throwing the football and doing anything through the air, those are the guys that are going to have to do it for them. But you look at this Arizona defense this year, it's been better against the run lately. I think early in the year they struggled a bit, but last 3 games, 89 rushing yards per game allowed on the ground. So much better from this Arizona defense. And let's not lose sight of the fact that Green Bay's defense, it's okay. It's an okay defense. To me, it's not a great defense. And last week, Washington goes up and down the field against that Green Bay defense. And if not for shooting themselves in the foot over and over again in the red zone, Green Bay might have been in jeopardy not only to cover, but maybe even lose the game straight up. I mean, Washington had a million chances in that game to score points, and they just consistently failed. And a lot of it was their own doing, not so much Green Bay's defense stopping them. So, all kinds of issues with the team. Short week on the road. I still lean Arizona at 6.5. Now, it is getting more pricey. I think there's a point where if it gets beyond a touchdown, I'd say, no, not anymore would I like Arizona. But to ask Arizona to win by a touchdown here, I think it can be done. Because, look, Arizona, the 3 best teams they've played at Tennessee, won by 25, at the Rams, won by 17, at Cleveland, won by 23. So not only winning those games, winning comfortably. So in my opinion, this is a spot for me for still like Arizona, even at -6.5. I'm thrilled with my -3.5, but I would still lean in their direction here at -6.5 in this one. I appreciate the kind words there from TransCanada. I've been on VSiN a few times as a guest, but I have no interest being there full time. It's too regimented. It's too stuffy. It's too serious. I find you can lay back and be a little more entertaining, a little bit more laid back, like you're talking that's why it's called pub sports radio, because it's like you're talking to friends of yours or buddies of yours in a bar or in a pub. It's got that kind of cool vibe to it. I don't get that with VSiN. So keep that in mind. I appreciate the kind words, man, but no, I'm fine. I'm comfortable. I'm happy where I am right now. All right, next up, Sunday, we've got Miami and Buffalo. Bills 14-point home favorites, 48.5 the total in this game. This to me looks like a potential smash spot for the Bills. This would be one of those games where I'd maybe look first quarter -4 on Buffalo, first half -7, and full game -14. Do like a split it in three, split it up into three different bets of equal size and go from there. You got to think the Bills have the chance to absolutely maul this Miami team. They're off a stinging loss to Tennessee, and that loss was significant because with Buffalo dropping to 2 losses on the year after that, it now means that they're all of a sudden not a guarantee to be home field advantage in the AFC for the playoffs. So this all of a sudden becomes a very, very important game here for the Buffalo Bills. Off the bye week, all of a sudden there's a lot of 2-loss teams right now in the AFC. Chargers, not Browns, Bengals, Ravens. And again, you want to battle for that number one seed in the AFC. And remember, because of the change in the playoff format, that now we're going to have 3 wildcard games in the AFC and in the NFC. There's only going to be one team in the AFC and one team in the NFC that gets a bye week this year to the divisional round. So keep that in mind. So it ends up being even more important to try to get the number one seed in this game or in this season, because the 2 teams don't get buys anymore to the divisional playoffs. Only one team does, and everybody else got to play a wild card game this year due to the change in the playoff format. So it's a big game. Look, Miami's just in shambles. The defense is falling apart, and that is a indictment, in my opinion, on Brian Flores, because that's his side of the football. And we're seeing them give up 31, 35, 27, 45, 23 to Jacksonville in a loss, 30 points to Atlanta last week in a loss. So the defense has fallen apart. It's also why they've trended over here. 4 of the last 5 games have gone over the total. That's where my lean is here in this game, is over 48.5. The one thing about Miami's offense is it is better with Tua. Okay. Yeah, with Tua on the field, remember, against Indy with Jacoby Brissett, the offense struggled. 17 points for Tampa Bay, the offense struggled. But then against Jacksonville, it was a little bit better with Tua, and Tua actually played a decent game against Atlanta. 28 points, they moved the ball, they had some good touchdown drives. So I think the game could go over the total as well, but I like the side even more with Buffalo. I'm gonna split it up in 3 equal-sized bets. Buffalo -4 first quarter, Buffalo -7 first half, Buffalo -14 full game, because I think they have a chance to cover all 3 in this game against a Miami team that's ripe for the picking right now with the way they've played. All right, next up, we go to Carolina, Atlanta. Atlanta 3-point home favorites, 46.5 the total in this game. Carolina, I don't know where they turn to on offense. They already benched Sam Darnold at the end of that just despicable performance for their offense against the Giants last week. Whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's PJ Walker, I honestly don't think it matters right now, because I don't think either one has got any sort of confidence at this point in time. And now it's just a question of, can the defense has hung in there for as long as they could, and they just haven't been able to overcome the ineptitude of the offense. And that's been the issue. They remain without Christian McCaffrey. That's a problem as well. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's all right, but he's not been that all-purpose back that Sam Darnold is. It looks like he's still going to start here, Darnold. It looks like. So the last indication is Sam is going to be back under center here for the Carolina Panthers, and we'll see how that goes for Carolina here in this game. He was benched last week. Maybe that's the wake-up call he needs. He's not facing a great defense, that's for sure. Atlanta is certainly a defense that has struggled. The money's come in on Atlanta. And look, until I see improvement from Carolina's offense, I have a hard time backing them, even against a defense that's got some issues. I would lean Atlanta here. Don't love it, but I would only look toward the Falcons here. The money's come in on them early in the week, 1.5 up to 3. And we'll give Atlanta credit for a couple of things. They at least have found ways to win some games lately. They weren't doing that earlier in the season. We'll see if they can keep doing that here in this game against Carolina. Philadelphia, Detroit. Philadelphia, 3.5-point road favorites, 48 the total in this game. I'm on the Detroit side. I think this is a legit shot for them to win their first game. I mean, that was red flag alert all over the place with Philadelphia last week. That was them getting completely manhandled in the trenches. The Raiders did whatever they wanted offensively. They pushed the Philly defensive line around that whole game until the fourth quarter, when the Raiders kind of took their foot off the gas pedal and fell asleep. Until that fourth quarter, the Eagles' offense and Jalen Hurts did nothing. They were absolutely grounded in that game by the Raiders. That was just one of those warning sign performances that there's something really not right with Philadelphia. That was ugly. That was absolutely ugly. That was a team that was trailing 30-7 going into the fourth quarter before scoring a bunch of, in my opinion, meaningless, padding your stats, meaningless, absolute garbage points in the fourth quarter that meant absolutely nothing. Nothing, those points. The game was already well in hand at 30-7. So the fact that it ended, 33-22 in that game makes it look a little more respectable. All of Philly's production came late in the game when the Raiders were coasting already at that point. So, yeah, I think this is a spot. The one thing Detroit doesn't always play well, but they do play hard. You have to admit that. And let's give them credit against the Rams. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFC and the NFL. Detroit was plus 41 total yards and plus 0.2 yards per play better than the LA Rams, even though they lost that game. They played well. They played hard. Their defense hung in there. Now, the problem is, this is a point spread where the Lions have to either win the game or come damn close because they're getting 3.5. It's not like you're getting a touchdown here. And we've seen them in the smaller point spread games struggle, right? The Chicago game, they were only a field goal dog. They lost by 10. Cincinnati game, 3.5-point dog. They lost by 23. It was the bigger dog games they covered. Baltimore, 7.5-point dog. Minnesota, 10-point dog. The Rams, 17-point underdog. So you're not getting many points here. They've just about got to get the job done and win the game to cover. But this is their chance. This is their chance to do it. You just hope Jared Goff doesn't do what he did last week, that brain cramp, brain fart, in ill time, bad decision, pick or interception in the red zone, which quite often, plagues him, especially in a close game. But if he can avoid that this week, I think they can beat this Las Vegas team. This Philadelphia team, rather. Philadelphia, their only two wins were Atlanta in week 1, where Atlanta just was awful, and Carolina with no offense. Those are the two victories. I mean, everybody else, they've looked terrible in every other game here, this Philadelphia Eagles team. I truly believe this is that spot for Detroit. And I'm telling you what, the more the winless team loses, I find the more their resolve is and their battle level is, to be honest with you, to get that first win. Nobody wants the stain of an 0 this year, an 0-17 season on their resume. Nobody wants that. Jared Goff doesn't want that. The head coach, Dan Campbell, doesn't want that. Players on this Detroit Lions team don't want to go 0-17. They don't want that stain. They don't want to be on the bad side of a record in the history books when it comes to this season. So I find these winless teams, you get effort. You don't say, they haven't won a game, they're not making the playoffs, season's over for them. No, I don't buy into that. I think it's a situation here where this team can find a way to get the job done here. So I'm looking at this here as Detroit plus 3.5. I haven't bet Detroit all years. I'm pretty damn sure I haven't made a single Detroit Lions bet this year. I think I'm going to make my first here with the Lions in this game, getting a 3.5 in this spot. All right. Let me just see, actually, camera issues. Hold on. There we go. All right. Just had to adjust the camera. All right. Next up, we've got Tennessee and Indianapolis. Great game here in the AFC South. We got Indy 1.5-point home favorites, 50.5, 51 the total. I agree with the move to the over. Carson Wentz and the offense is starting to get it going. They're also getting healthier on offense. They actually might have T.Y. Hilton back this week as well from the quadricep injury. This is definitely a team that is peaking on the offensive side of the football, playing better. You look at the last 4 ball games. 3 of them they've won, 4 that straight they've covered. 27, 25 against a good Baltimore team on the road, 31 against Houston, 30 against San Francisco in a game that was played in a monsoon, essentially last week against the 49ers. This is definitely, to me, a Colts offense that's revving it up a little bit, getting better. And I know Tennessee is off in 2 huge wins against the Bills and the Chiefs, 2 really good wins, quality wins, and they shut down the Chiefs. I mean, I was shocked by how good the Tennessee defense was last week. But can they do it again? Can they avoid that potential emotional letdown after a huge win against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs last week? That ends up being the question. And I like the balance that the Colts are showing. Carson Wentz is finally starting to get the case of the yips out of his system. He's looking confident. He's making accurate throws. He's not panicking anymore in the pocket. I like the way their trajectory is going with the Colts offense. The Colts defense, though, Colts defense last 2 weeks has been good, but the Niners with banged up football team, Houston with a terrible offense. Let's not forget they coughed up a big lead fourth quarter against Baltimore, that Indianapolis defense, and that loss to the Ravens. I think they're going to give up points to the Titans. Look, Titans offense is rolling the last 3 weeks, very well balanced. Derrick Henry running the football, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and company down the field in the passing game for Ryan Tannehill. Weather won't be a factor. It's going to be indoors at Lucas Oil there in Indianapolis, so you won't have to worry about any weather. This definitely looks like over the total to me. I actually lean to the Colts a little bit here. The Colts really need this game more than the Titans do, because if they want to make this the playoffs, the Colts have to win the division. I don't think they're getting in as a wild card, and the only way they win the division is they catch Tennessee. Tennessee's 5-2. Indy's 3-4. If Indy wins this game, Tennessee drops to 5-3. Indy goes to 4-4, and suddenly they're 1 game back. They lose this game, and suddenly they're 3 games back of Tennessee. This game is enormous for Indy. And with Tennessee, look, huge game against Buffalo, Monday Night Football, huge game Kansas City last week. Can they really rev up the motor again, Tennessee, for a 3rd straight critical big-time football game? That's a question mark to me for as good. Like, sometimes you just play so many big games and you're keyed up and you're geared up for them. And then all of a sudden you don't have that same game the 3rd straight time you're playing a pretty big game like that. So that ends up being the question. And look, they did that at home. Now they got to go on the road. That has to be factored in as well. The Bills win was at home. The Chiefs win was at home. On the road this year, they did beat Seattle first week of the year. Give them credit for that. But, there's not going to be an easy game for Tennessee. The money has come in, or it did come in initially on Tennessee, and now it's come in on Indy a little bit. And I could see why. Small bet on Indy for me. I like the over more. That's the bet I like here, though, the most is the over 51. LA Rams, Houston Texans. We got the Rams 14.5-point road favorites, 48. I can't back Houston. So right away, I'll tell you right now, it's Rams or nothing. I would lean Rams, but it is at home for Houston, and Davis Mills and the Texans have been beyond bad on the road. They've been actually a little bit better at home, and that is a lot of points for the Rams to be laying here in this game. And they're coming off the big whole, Stafford facing his former team, and it's just not a Rams spot. But there's nothing I can do there's no way you could get me to the window with Houston right now. I don't care how many points they're getting. Davis Mills is inept. He's making bad decisions. His pocket presence is terrible. They can't run the football. They have no run game whatsoever. The defense is now getting picked apart, especially later in games, because the offense is going 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt. So to me, it's a pass in this game. I would lean under, actually, 47.5. Like, the Rams could score 35 in this game. Are you confident the Texans get to 14? I'm not. You could see 35-10. You could see 35-7, something like that, and you stay under the total. So lean Rams, but lean under when it comes to the total in this game. Cincinnati, New York Jets, Bengals 10.5-point road favorites, 43 the total. This is important to point this out, and it's why I'm not on. First of all, the spot's terrible. They're coming off the biggest win the team's had in years on the road against Baltimore. That's got them now tied for first in the division. Now they're playing the lowly Jets. The look-ahead line and the line before last Sunday's games, for this game, the look-ahead line was Cincinnati minus 3.5. Cincinnati minus 3.5. Look at where the line is now. It's Cincinnati minus 10.5. Now, if you bet Cincinnati minus 10.5 and they win and they cover, good on you. But long term, that's not the way you beat the NFL. That's not the way you make money betting NFL football, is betting a team that's minus 10.5 when on the look ahead lines the week before, they were only laying minus 3.5. That's just not the way you go about trying to make money betting NFL football. It's just not. And this is not the spot either for the Bengals that I love them in. They're coming off one of their biggest wins ever. I know the Jets are. That was awful last week against the Patriots. And Zach Wilson's now out, and they're turning now to Mike White, who looked he looked like he didn't belong on an NFL field. And there's certainly no reasons for me to want the Jets in this game. But I'm just trying to provide a little caveat here that we're talking a team that was minus 3.5 on the road just last week in this game against the Jets. And now, because of them looking so impressive against Baltimore, and the Jets with the injury to Wilson and getting blown out by the Patriots last week and going to Mike White at the backup at quarterback. And now you're talking a 7-point adjustment. 7-point adjustment. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around. Yeah, let's lay 10.5 with Cincinnati here in this game. I'm total stay away for me because the Jets are bad enough they could lose here by 14 in this one. So again, the Jets are not a team I'm back. Not with Mike White at quarterback. He could barely complete a forward pass when he came into the game against New England last week. I'm just not backing him right now at all. But Cincinnati minus 10.5, not in this spot, not at that number. Pass for me here. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. We've got Cleveland 3.5-point home favorites, 42 the total. I like the Browns here. I really do. Extra time to prepare too because they played Thursday night football last week. You got to hope they're getting healthier. They're going to have the right tackle, Jack Conklin, back for sure, which is good. He's been upgraded. Jedrick Wills sounds like he might play, and J.C. Treader, the center. I mean, this offensive line has the potential to be as healthy as they've been in a very long time. Nick Chubb looks like he'll be back from the calf injury, which is good. They do still have question marks with Denzel Ward and Odell Beckham in terms of their status, and Baker Mayfield as well with the torn labrum on his left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder, but still, it is a significant injury, but he still might play. There's at least a chance they're going to get healthier. Jarvis Landry came back last week. And even if it is Case Keenum again, at quarterback for the Browns for a second straight game, it's not like he's a ragamuffin quarterback. He's a guy that can go in there and get the job done. He showed it last week against Denver. I love the run he made down near the goal line to pick up a first down. That's showing your team, I want to win. I want to help us win games. And Case Keenum, let's not forget, he took the Minnesota Vikings to the NFC Championship game a few years ago, the Minneapolis Miracle. This is a guy that can play. This is a guy that can come in there for a couple of games and be steady, be sound, not make mistakes. Don't put your team in a position to lose the game. Just move the chains. Let the defense take care of the rest. That's what you can get here with Case Keenum and company. And I'm still not sold on the Steeler offense at all. I know they were off back-to-back wins against Denver and Seattle, but the Broncos have fallen apart. Seattle is a mess, and they played them with Geno Smith at quarterback, and they barely won, escaped with an overtime victory. I think Cleveland can win and cover here at home here in this one. It's an important game for both of these teams with where they are in the standings, but still think the Browns, especially if they get healthier, are the better of these squads right now, and I like them here as a small home favorite. San Fran, Chicago. San Francisco, 4-point road favorites, 39.5 the total. I'm not laying points with San Francisco on the road. I'm not. This team is, they're in a brutal division, the NFC West. They're way behind the Rams and the Cardinals now. There's probably no path to the playoffs now for the 49ers. If they wanted to save their season, they had to come out of their bye week and beat Indianapolis last Sunday night at home. They were not able to do that. So I worry about backing the 49ers here and moving forward, to be honest with you. Chicago, though, I mean, tough to get behind them. They get just absolutely steamrolled by Tampa Bay. Justin Fields, it's been a baptism by fire here with this offense. The defense has fallen apart a little bit too. Just two teams I'd rather bet against than bet on right now. Probably not a game I'll end up betting here. Jacksonville, Seattle. Seattle 3.5 point home favorites, 44 the total in this game. I'm not laying 3.5 with Geno. Not after what I saw last week. I wish I was getting more points with Jacksonville. I don't know if 3.5 is enough for me to trust them and back them. It's I know they got that first win under Urban Meyer, and they're off a bye week, which is a good situation, which is especially good when you're going to the Pacific Northwest. So, the spot actually sets up very well here for Jacksonville in this game, and they're off a first win of the year. Maybe they're a little bit more confidence going into this game. I just wish I was getting more than 3.5. It feels like I don't know if it's enough. But I've seen enough from the Seattle offense the last couple weeks. The Pittsburgh game, the New Orleans game, especially Monday night, they're having trouble running the ball. They have nothing going in the passing game whatsoever. That was an ugly offensive game for the Seattle Seahawks Monday night. And again, without Russell Wilson, it's true, as one of our people in the chat says, they're PRS full. It's true. Without Wilson, they look like a bad football team. And now they're in the same spot as the Niners. I just talked about them. Playoffs are shot for them. That killed their playoff chances, losing to New Orleans at home, in my opinion, on Monday Night Football. It's Jacksonville or pass for me. I haven't made up my mind whether I'm going to take the Jags, but it's the only side I would look toward in this game would be Jacksonville here, +3, +3.5. And look, Trevor Lawrence is the better quarterback, I think. Even though he's a rookie, I think Trevor Lawrence has more upside and could play better in this game than Geno at this point in time. And for Jacksonville, look, they played a lot of good quarterbacks, a lot of good defenses or offenses, and I know their defenses struggled, but they played Tennessee, they played Cincinnati, they played Arizona. They played some good teams, good offenses. This ain't one of them right now, this Seattle team. So I'm definitely leaning Jacksonville. New England, LA Chargers. Chargers 5-point home favorites, 49.5 the total. We'll go rapid fire. The more I look at New England's defense, the more I see that, when they play good offenses, they struggle. I think they might here. I kind of like the Chargers. This is long for the long term. Laying points at home with the Chargers and that minimal home field edge they have there at SoFi Stadium. That's usually a bad bet because they've not been good home favorites, but I'm considering laying the 5 here with them in this game. They're off a brutal loss to Baltimore where nothing went right. They've had 2 weeks. They're off a bye week. They've had 2 weeks to stew on it. That dreadful performance against the Ravens a couple weeks ago. Again, they're trying to battle for the number 1 seed in the AFC at 4-2. So it's an important game for them. Refresh, revive. If you're ever going to trust the Chargers, laying points at home, to me, this is the spot you trust them. Now, does it mean they're going to cover? No, but I would only look Chargers against New England here. Off a bye, off a bad loss. Those are usually good long-term bet on angles and good long-term bet on spots. Chargers are pass for me. Washington, Denver. Denver 3-point home favorites, 44 the total in this game. What do you do here? I mean, how do you lay with Denver right now? I mean, it's basically Cleveland, the very first drive of the game last Thursday night against Denver, set the tone for the entire game. Just run right down the field, down the throat of Denver's so-called good defense, which we thought was a good defense early in the year. We're maybe finding out that's not the case now. I don't know how you back them, but at the same point in time, Washington, they played well enough to beat Green Bay. I'm serious. They did, but they just shot themselves in the foot time and time again with mistakes in the red zone. How do you trust them? I guess maybe you'd lean under in this game. Washington can't finish in the red zone. Denver's offense is kind of in shambles right now. Although Washington's defense has been terrible, maybe that gets them. As you can tell, I'm talking in circles. This is not a game I was planning on betting from the beginning. So it's going to be a pass for me. I just don't want to trust and rely on either of these teams right now. Tampa Bay, New Orleans. Tampa Bay, 5.5-point road favorites, 50 the total in this game. This is an interesting one here. Divisional matchup here, Bucks and the Saints. Of course, did they play earlier? No, they did not. This is the first meeting between these two teams. Probably about as unimpressive an offensive performance as you can have in a win for New Orleans last week against Seattle, 13-10. I mean, it's not like Jameis Winston and the Saints offense was great, but they did a good job and found a way to win in that one. You're laying 5.5 with Tampa, but man, this Tampa team's starting to roll a little bit. I mean, the last few games, they crushed Miami. They beat Philadelphia by 6. Although they controlled that game, they probably should have covered. They deserved to cut. And then, of course, they maul Chicago. The numbers gone up, and they're getting healthier on defense as well, which is nice to see. You look at the defensive injuries. Levante David might play here. Carlton Davis out, but there's even some whispers he might, potentially be a long shot to play here in this game. It looks like Jamel Dean at corner could come back for this game against the Saints as well. So the Bucs are starting to get healthier on defense as well, but and which is a good sign. I know it's on the road; it's laying 5.5, but I'd lean Tampa. I really would. We'll see how they fare. It is Jameis Winston against his former team. He's going to be pumped up for that, I'm sure, to start against them. But I think it still could be a struggle here a little bit for the New Orleans Saints offensively in this game, especially with Tampa. Tampa Bay's defense is starting to get better. Like I said, get healthier. We'll lean to the Bucs here, -5.5. Sunday Night Football, Dallas, Minnesota. Dallas 1.5-point road favorites, 55 the total in this game. Dallas overs, wash, rinse, and repeat. But the betting markets, unfortunately, are onto that. This total opened 51.5. It's 55 now, but I wouldn't want the under in this game. Let's put it that way. I mean, this Dallas offense is cooking. Maybe the bye week shakes them up a little bit, throws them out of rhythm, but I doubt it. Especially, and I doubt if Minnesota's defense is going to be good enough, to shut down Dallas or keep them in check. Let's keep in mind 3 good offenses that Minnesota's played this year. Burrow and the Bengals, they gave up 27. Murray and the Cardinals, they gave up 34. Carolina, they gave up 28. And they're not even a good offense, and they gave up 28 points a couple weeks ago after their bye to Sam Darnold and the Panthers. And both teams are off a bye. Dallas's defense is improving, but even with that improved defense, they've given up 21, 28, 20, and 29 in their last 4 games. Minnesota, like I said, against any good offense they've played so far, they've struggled. I'm not involved in the side, but I am liking points in this game. Obviously, indoors in Minnesota, which means you won't have weather issues. So the total's gone up here in this one, and I would lean that way with the over here, 55. Cowboys Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, good points by Darren Thompson. You're right. Bucs have not been good in the road favorite role. Saints have been good in the home dog role. So the technicals definitely side with the Saints in that game between Tampa and New Orleans. All right, Monday Night Football, Giants in Kansas City. Kansas City, 10-point home favorites, 52.5 the total. This is Giants or pass for me. And look, the Giants are in the point spread role where they thrive in, road underdog. They have been beyond good in the road underdog role for years, the New York Giants. Let me see if I can find the exact numbers, but you get them as road underdogs, the New York Giants, 22-7 against the spread their last 29 games as a road underdog, 20-6 against the spread in their last 26 road games. They've been phenomenal on the road, especially in the underdog role. And how do you lay 10 with Kansas City right now against anybody? We saw the offensive line, and look, we know the defense sucks. It's been horseshit all year. Horseshit. But now we're starting to see the offense really start to struggle for this Kansas City Chiefs team the last few weeks. Patrick Mahomes isn't getting the protection he's been had in the past. He's making more mistakes, fumbling, throwing interceptions. The offense is now needing to get some of the blame right now for the Chiefs' struggles as well, especially last week against Tennessee. And even the Buffalo game, that offense didn't work against the Bills. So to me, you've got a Kansas City team you can't rely on to get stops. Now, I know it was a Carolina offense that's horrid last week, but the Giants, that was a good win, 25-3. They get a little momentum from that, winning that game for only their 3rd win of the year, 3-4. I expect a good effort from the Giants. And like we say, as road underdogs, they've been good. I mean, the Dallas game, but remember, they had a ton of injuries suffered in that game, but they covered as dogs and on the road at Washington and at New Orleans. They won outright against the Saints. This has been their role. This is a Kansas City team with now an offense struggling and a horrendous defense laying double digits. No, thank you. A Giants team that has been money in the bank on the road and as road underdogs. So Monday Night Football, this is New York Giants plus the points for me between the Giants and Chiefs on Monday Night Football. There you go. That is the CFL and the NFL football card for the upcoming week. We'll wrap up this. Thanks to everybody, by the way, for tuning in live. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that on the way out. Make sure you hit the like button and show some love for Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. We will get to a CFL best bet and an NFL best bet to wrap up the show in just a second. But first, we'll pause for messages from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101. Manscaped, promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase using the promo code PubSports. Lawnmower 4.0 and any Manscaped product. Check it out. Use the promo code PubSports, manscaped.com. And mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. Football season, lots left. NBA's here, NHL's here, college basketball in a couple weeks, World Series going on. There's UFC fight cards galore most weeks. No better time than right now with all the sports converging at once to sign up for an account at mybookie.ag. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit as well. Mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, let's give you a CFL best bet. Let's give you an NFL best bet for this week. Let's start in the CFL. In terms of best bet, I'm going to go Toronto Argonauts. I was going to go with my Ticats, and I like my Ticats too. It's probably my second favorite play, Hamilton -5 against Edmonton. But I'm going to go with my dreaded, hated arch rivals, which shows you that I'm not biased. I'm not jaded. I will bet what I think is right, and what I think is right is the Toronto Argonauts -3 against the BC Lions, because BC's struggling, 0-4 straight up and against the spread on the road. The Argos coming back home off a tough loss to Montreal. Toronto has not lost 2 straight games yet this year. They're undefeated at BMO Field in Toronto. Let's go Toronto Argos. Argos -3 against the BC Lions for my CFL best bet. For my NFL best bet, let's go to Sunday. NFL best bet for me, it is going to be. Hold on, I've got next week's schedule in front of me for NFL. This Sunday we need. There we go. Let's go with the Cleveland Browns -3.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they get it done, and they're starting to get healthier. The offensive line could have everybody back. Conklin, Jedrick Wills, J.C. Treader. That's your starting center. That's your left tackle. That's your right tackle. They could all be back for Cleveland here in this game. Nick Chubb's back. Baker still could come back and play, and even if he doesn't, Case Keenum's more than serviceable at the quarterback spot. Cleveland -3.5 against Pittsburgh. Cheap number because of some of these injuries at home. I think they take care of business here. Browns -3.5, best bet for Sunday in the NFL. There you go. That's Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Thanks for tuning in. I'm back at 4 p.m. Eastern later this afternoon right here on Pub Sports Radio with the NBA Pub Hub. We'll break down the Thursday NBA card. Make sure you join us for that. I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for watching Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, and we'll see you again next Thursday for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on Pub Sports Radio.